Good night, everybody. Good night on this very pleasant Tuesday. We're live in studio as usual. It's September the 13th, Tuesday, September 13th, just like that. It's already September the 13th, and we are heading down. Next week, we will be celebrating our independence, September the 21st. And, I won't speak on that. We're moving towards that. So next week, that's going to be Wednesday. So we'll be able to have a show just before that. All right. Tonight, we have a topic that I think is very worthwhile looking at. And because you have different opinions. But before I go and dive into the show, all right, of course, as you all know, we will be speaking on the reign, all right, the reign of the now deceased Queen Elizabeth II, and the end of her reign, the end of her era, and which is now ushering a new reign, a new monarch. And that is definitely going to be something that will be looked at. People will be discussing it now with King Charles III. This show is brought to you, of course, through the courtesy of Sea Belize Vacation Rentals, located at 5 miles Philip Goldson Highway. So we also are here sponsored by Max Television, Max TV, and Maximum Radio. Maximum TV, as long as you are in the country of Belize, you can watch it on TV. I mean, you can also connect on if you're watching it online to your television, of course. But Max TV, you have Central Cable Vision. So if you have Central Cable Vision, which is countrywide, in Corozal, Orange Walk, and Ladyville, you're able to watch it on channel 51. In San Pedro, on channel 33. And if you're in Belize City, Belmopan, Cayo, Dangriga, Punta Gorda, you are able to watch it on channel 14. Of course, Max Television and Max Radio, they're not only on TV and radio. They're on 104.1 FM on radio.net, Radio Garden, Instagram, MadLab, Sector 9, TikTok, and Zeno Radio. Of course, if you're watching it on the Zenaida Moya Show Facebook page, again, good night to you. We're also on the Zenaida Moya Show LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram accounts. So you can watch it there, and we upload it on Rumble, on the Rumble channel. So for those of you who will be watching it that way, good night to everybody. I want to say that we have, and of course, share the link. Share the link. It's a link. It's a link that needs to be shared because some people are asking, and I want to ask a question. Maybe you guys could also say it in there before we get in, and you could do it right through. But I've had certain persons asking me to have the show from 6:30 p.m. so that I could go till 8, because I've been ensuring that the show goes from 7 to 8, right? So I kind of push things a bit quickly. Certain things that I don't get to discuss is because I'm trying to ensure the show is 1 hour. So they said, well, why don't you have the show 6:30 p.m. and then you can go up to 8 o'clock if you choose to. Otherwise, 6:30 to 7:30. If you go a little bit over, that's fine. You're still within. So that's something that I'll definitely want your feedback on. And I'll be looking at your comments later. I'll be asking a question also on the Zenaida Moya Show Facebook page and asking that question too. But with that said, I want to say that we have a show tonight that it's important, because I believe most of us, who are alive today have heard about who is Queen Elizabeth, whether or not you're a part of the Commonwealth or not, all those nations that have chosen freely to be a part of the Commonwealth. Nobody is forced to. Let me just state that. And independent nations who have gained their independence. As a matter of fact, even nations who are not colonized by the Commonwealth, I believe Rwanda and another country, Kigali, but two countries I know that they were colonized, I believe, by Belgium and Portugal, but they went ahead and they had asked to join our English-speaking Commonwealth. So it just goes to show, and I thought that it's important because the Commonwealth has been headed by, yes, there's a secretariat, which is in England, right? It's in London. But there's also, it has been the Queen of England who has been the head of state, who has been a leader, who has gone there. I've had the distinguished honor to be in attendance at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which is a meeting, where you have the heads of state, right? So you'll have the prime ministers of the Commonwealth countries go there. So different times they've had different numbers, 52 countries, 53 countries, whatever. And they go there and they meet, they discuss, they take their delegations from throughout the Commonwealth. And so the Commonwealth, it's made up of course, you have all the Americas, okay, including North America in the instance of Canada. Not Mexico, not Canada, not the US, but Canada, Belize, right? And of course you have in the Caribbean, you have the Asia Pacific region, you have Australia, New Zealand, of course you have England, of course, Malta, Africa, hopefully I'm not leaving out anybody, New Zealand. So those are the countries, and you have those meetings that would have executive meetings, and so our leaders would go there and they would discuss certain important issues that impact our countries. Now, when I speak about the end of an era and the end of a reign, it's because and the beginning, of a new one, because we who are a part of the Commonwealth will have to make a decision as to what we want to do moving forward. As I said, most of us, we grew up knowing about the Queen of England, which is Queen Elizabeth II. And that's all we've known, you see? There's mixed feelings because people will speak about colonialism, imperialism, whichever they choose to speak. Imperialism is different from colonialism. I don't want to get into everything, but it is different. You have to understand that there are some differences. And so let us speak on, in this case, it would be colonialism that I'll speak on. For a great extent, when colony, you hear colony, people, what they used to do, they would send over persons to represent them to live on these settlements. That's why colony. That's why it's still different from imperialism. Some people mix up the two words, but it's different. Right now, you would say we have imperialism in certain countries that are not a part of the Commonwealth, because it's different. You see, when we speak on the colony, let me drink some water. So when we see that these colonies, you had settlement, and so we were once called British Honduras, all right? All right, so I don't know what happened. Let me first go to one of the videos so I can drink a little bit more water. But I want to discuss, and you're going to have to just look at one of these. Go ahead, Kelvin. And I want you to look at this because, again, there's a difference with colony, and you need to understand that colony, they send people. That's why you had the governor. We had a governor, for example, in Belize. And for all those who are watching this show from Canada, from England, wherever, the US, of course, you guys will know about this. So they settled, and that's why we had a British Honduras. That's what we are called. It was a colony, and they sent their representatives. And afterwards, though, some people asked for self-government. It was granted to them, and then thereafter they requested independence. And then you went ahead, and you could literally leave or stay. And a lot of persons, even while they requested and got their independence, or they chose to remain a part of the Commonwealth without any force, without any demands other than there's specific requests that they have to adhere to, and those have to do with certain democracy and so forth. No, so I want to just tell you, for example, you have. Let me just go before I go on the show. For example, you have to speak when it comes to the Commonwealth, which, as I told you, it's a meeting. It's a biannual meeting, and it's rotated by the invitation. All right. And it first started in Singapore in 1971. All right, so that's even before I was born. But so it's been around. I attended in 2011 in Perth, Australia. So that was the 21st meeting. And first of all, when you go there, you have to reaffirm there's core values, and this includes the promotion of democracy. I went there because I led. I was in my second term. I was elected the chairperson of the Commonwealth Local Government Forum. All right, the Commonwealth Local Government Forum, better known as CLGF. The headquarters is based in London, England. And it's comprised of all the countries, Commonwealth countries. So we had 52 or 53 countries at different times in the different Commonwealth countries I spoke of. And you had the ministers of local government. All the ministers of local government are part of it. The mayors throughout those Commonwealth countries. And you would have certain academias also a part of it. You have certain patrons. So we had Museveni, we have different patrons. So different prime ministers would be the patron. That's why, for example, when I had my meeting, I was a chairperson. During my second term, I had my meeting. Normally we'd go to different countries, but since I was a chairperson, I had to ensure the meeting was held in Belize. So that's why you would have seen me at that time. And I headed that meeting. Of course, you had different, the head of the Commonwealth Secretariat, His Excellency was here. You had the Prime Minister of Trinidad. She was here. She was a patron at the time. And then they were going to be in charge of Chagum. Or they had just, they were going to be. And you had all the ministers of the Commonwealth countries when it comes to local government. A lot of them came, and mayors and so forth. So we had that at the Princess Hotel. And I guess some of you may remember those meetings, or those of you who follow up. I was the one who was chairing those meetings. And so Belize has been a part of that. Belize has been a part of that, and we speak about, we have to adhere to these rules: promotion of democracy, human rights, good governance, the rule of law, individual liberty. All right, nobody can be a slave. All right, you have to be independent, free, egalitarianism, free trade, multilateralism, and promoting world peace, okay? And I can get into more of this. I'm telling you this because this will affect us. And we'll need to know where we go, because we already hear certain ministers of government speaking year and year as to which direction they are looking at. But we as a people need to understand what it is that we're a part of, how it will affect us if we choose to, whichever direction. I'll get into that. But yeah, so those are some of the things. The Commonwealth represents a population of over 2 billion people from every continent. The Commonwealth is a strong voice globally, all right? And so that's why every 2 years they meet. And Belize, for example, we're a part of the CARICOM, so the Caribbean. We're also a part of, again, the Central American region, although we're English speaking, and that's why we're more closer, probably, I believe so, to the Commonwealth and of course to CARICOM, but we're also a part of the CEDA, all right? The Central American integration, so we're a part of that. So we identify more with the English speaking, and I can tell you that we have a Spanish speaking prime minister right now, and we have a lot of their ministers who are now Spanish speaking Hispanic, right? In the past, I think, in the recent past, more of us were English speaking. Well, that was our first language. And I guess we, to a great extent, the people who led key ministries and, moved Belize in terms of going out there on delegations, to a great extent, you would have seen more those persons who English speaking was their first language. Now you see a lot of people, their Spanish is their first language, and I'm just telling you as it is. It's a lot of Spanish speaking ministers and so forth now, I think, than before, no? So so you're gonna see a possible shift. We're gonna see what happens. So we have to know that one may move more towards Central America, and the other may have leaned more to the Caribbean and to, of course, the Commonwealth. Where we go as a nation, it will affect us, all right? Especially how it doesn't matter what anybody wants to say. And I've seen writings on the wall as to whether or not the situation with Guatemala will affect us or not. Of course, that will play a role. That's a factor. So we always have to know who our friends are. It doesn't matter what people want to say. All right? For example, if I belong to an institution, if I'm a one-man person, or sometimes I have been a one-man army, they have been called that, but is that the best thing? Sometimes you have to want to affiliate yourself with certain organizations or entities. Of course, you choose which one suits you. All right. So with that said, I wanna let me just say that I saw some people here. Thank you very much, Nancy. Very good night. Good night. Thank you, Nancy. This is I'm an Aquarian. Amethyst is my color. Purple is my color. I love purple. Thank you very much. So I want to thank you, all those watching. I see so many others watching. So good night, Kimberly, Quillen, Gregory Young, my friend, my old neighbor, Maureen, Puran Singh, good night, my friend, Rodrigo, good night. Everybody else, I want to say a pleasant good night. And so stay right here because this is important. I want us to now play one of the videos so you understand. Because many of the lay persons may not understand fully how this will affect us. Queen Elizabeth has died. We now have King Charles III. How will that affect us? Depending on what direction we move. So let's move in. I chose 2011, certain info from 2011 as well, because the Perth Australia meeting, because I was there. I told you I led a delegation, the Commonwealth Local Government Forum delegation. I led that because I was a chairperson. So I got to sit in on the meetings, and that was a good thing because I got to see how people, what the agenda was. I got to see how people spoke at these meetings. I was proud of some, others I was like, but I got to see, and that was a good thing. And it was even more important because I had just also come from, I was the head of a Commonwealth Observer mission in the Maldives. They had their election. And that's an Islam country. But anyway, I was there. I was a head of that election observer mission, and so I was there, and I got to meet, of course, with their prime minister. I think it's prime minister. They have a president, because some have president. Still, it can be republic so Uganda, but you can still be a part of the Commonwealth. Okay. So, so I had met with him, I met with all his, the members of the parliament, I met with, all over the opposition, everybody that needed to be met, leaders in the business service, the public service, many different entities I met, the media, of course, the different media and head of media. So I got to do that, right? I got to do that. So I had just met with these people, observed their election and whatnot, gave my report along with my election observer team. And then, like a little after that, I believe that's when I went to the Chagam. So I got to meet this particular head of the Maldives. I think is he a president or a prime minister? But anyway, he was one of them that I was impressed with at one of these Chagam meetings. Because one of the items that was there, they wanted to have a human rights commissioner. And the human rights commissioner, some of the things that they were pushing, they were like, certain countries were pushing it. And this was something that even in the US they were pushing. And of course, same-sex marriage was one of the main ones, because outside you had people pushing to protest for that and so forth. So you had same-sex marriage was one of them. Of course, so a lot of you who know that's something that when it comes to changing our laws about that, that's something I'm not into. But I got to listen and hear how strong certain people were against that. South Africa, and I saw the Maldives. I was impressed. Our representative, however, didn't say a word. But you had other countries speaking. I was very proud of them. I guess sometimes, maybe I don't know if they just tell our representative just decide not to speak up for fear or just so they don't muddy the waters, or you play possum. But he didn't speak up. So I wasn't too thrilled about that. I was going to show you some pictures of us there, but I'm not going to show them because I wasn't very impressed. But yeah, so it's with that backdrop, so you understand what we're going. So let me just go ahead. Yes, thank you very much. Good night, Miss Claudette Simmons. Good night, Orlando Pelayo. Good night, my friend. Go ahead and play the first video. I want you to just see about the Commonwealth. I want you to see the Queen, and then afterwards also I want you to see the reactions of how people will be looking at it now. So go ahead and play it.
Most people know her as the Queen of England, but Elizabeth II is actually the monarch of 16 different countries. However, that looks like it could change, as recently the Caribbean island of Barbados has announced plans to become a republic, and replace Queen Elizabeth as head of state next year. It means Prince Harry's visit to Barbados in 2016 was probably the last royal engagement of its kind there. Mauritius was the last country to remove the Queen as head of state in 1992. Before that, Fiji and Trinidad and Tobago did the same. Let's take a look at some of the places that recognise the Queen as its monarch. Her Majesty has developed a very personal relationship with Australia through regular visits. She's travelled throughout the different states to meet people from all cultures, walks of life and regions of this enormous and fascinating country. The Bahamas is a constitutional monarchy, meaning that the Queen has a unique relationship with the country. The royal family's links with the Bahamas have been strengthened by regular visits throughout Her Majesty's reign. Her Majesty is head of state in Belize. She's been monarch there since 1981. Canada has been a monarchy for centuries, first under the kings of France in the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries, then under the British Crown in the 18th and 19th centuries. Her Majesty is the Queen of Grenada, an island country in the Eastern Caribbean. Ties between the royal family and the Caribbean nation have been strengthened through royal visits to the islands. The Queen is also monarch of Jamaica. She's visited 6 times, the last occasion in 2006. New Zealand is a constitutional monarchy with the Queen as sovereign. Her Majesty recognises events affecting New Zealand, for example, sending messages for national celebrations or tragedies. She also honours New Zealand's achievements at events in the UK, for example, holding a reception for members of the All Blacks rugby team at Buckingham Palace in 2005. The Queen is head of state in the South Pacific country of Papua New Guinea, where she's known as Mrs. Quinn. Her Majesty is supported in her role by other members of the royal family who visited the country many times throughout her reign. The cluster of islands Tuvalu is also part of the Commonwealth and home to one of the world's smallest democracies. Prince Charles won't automatically become the head of the Commonwealth. Instead, all the leaders will meet to decide the most suitable candidate, which could either be a member of the royal family or perhaps even a politician or head of state. Although Queen Elizabeth has stated she wants her son, Prince Charles, to take on the role next.
So I showed you that because that's more recent, and so you can, get an understanding of how it is now. However, the role that the Queen Elizabeth has played over the years, and it really started under her. When it comes to the Commonwealth, it's something that when she gained ascension, when her dad died and she gained ascension, that was something that began at the beginning of her reign. Okay, that's something that really began. That she moved from what then, that's why people would speak about imperialism, okay? Imperialism. But like I told you, imperialism, right now it's still in certain countries, even though they were not a colony. That's why I like to differentiate the meaning and just use colonialism. But it was under Queen Elizabeth's reign that it was after World War I that people started to, they had already been leaving, then they started, they were gaining their independence, but they still wanted to be a part of this, this brotherhood. Some people call it sisterhood, depending on who's speaking. It's either brotherhood, sisterhood. But this group and this group of nations. So that is something that has to be looked at. The Commonwealth, of course, has also one of the topics that they have delved with, because they have delved into a lot of the comments, but a lot of the comments was, let me just tell you, some of the things that they had looked at had to do with, they looked at, for example, even things like apartheid. They spoke out against apartheid. They had sessions, meetings to ensure that apartheid ended in South Africa. All right? So, but they had different things throughout the years, but I'm telling you that certain things that were big deal, that was a big deal, that they ensured, because remember, democracy is one of the core value that has to be adhered to. All right, it has to be adhered to. Okay, individual liberty has to be adhered to. Good governance, all right, human rights. And so those fly in the face of apartheid. Okay, those flew in the face of apartheid. So you couldn't have apartheid. They did not support apartheid. It wasn't something that could be carried on. Even though it was there before, the Commonwealth nations, they understood it could not continue. All right? But I want you guys to understand, because this now, people are speaking about, oh, let's go to a referendum for it, or let's vote on it, or whatever. I want us to go to the video, the relationship between Queen Elizabeth and the Commonwealth. But just to say this, that and this is my view right now, and things can change depending on how people's view or what they're told, or what's shown to them. So it could be fluid. But right now, in my view, if you were to go to a referendum, or if you were to go to a vote, either way, I believe, of what I've seen so far, is that Belizeans and many in those countries who still have the head of state, the head of state as, let's say it was the Queen of England, now the King of England, that their people, their citizens, would still support the king being their head of state. Not all, clearly not all, and there are certain countries who are definitely, their leaders are moving against it, and that is why I think this right here is important. But to understand why a vote, if we were to go to a referendum, the vote, unless there's a huge push by the government to say, no, we got to remove ourselves, or no, we have to cut ties, I believe that it would still favor being a part of the Commonwealth and having our head of state as the king. And I'll tell you why. The young people, if you see a lot of the young people, they still, even though they don't know the Queen of England as much, they still know of the younger ones. And then, of course, they knew the Queen. It still seems that they support. The older persons, the older, let's just say Belizeans, our grandmother, our grandfather, I don't have any, but for those who have, right? Because that's all that they've known, they would still support. All right? Our parents, my parents, I believe they would still support. There's certain individuals and pockets, however, all right, who would not support. I certainly don't believe they're the majority. I'll put it point blank because I've been, my view, I have to watch and I read the pulse of the people. I see what's going on. I try to make sure I do my research. I watch the trends. So I'm just telling you like right now. I mean, even, I don't even, I always say about Michael Salazar. Michael Salazar is from Max TV. And I know that he has been writing against it. All right, so I know he doesn't support it, and it's okay, I'm sure I can say it because he puts it openly. But in terms of I see, and he's just one person who I've looked at, and I'm not gonna comment. I'm somebody who certain things I don't comment on because I want to see people's views and reactions. All right, that's just me. But that is the reality right now, okay? Certain countries will want to move away. Certain people will want to move away. Some people will say about, okay, it's under the Queen that certain things happen. Certain countries were looted. Certain things were taken from them. And then you will have those who will say, well, from imperialism or colonialism, all right. Then we had a transformation to the Commonwealth of Nations. People freely agreed and accepted for their head of state to be the Queen of England. Freely. Nobody up to now. Nobody polling. For example, Barbados, they just voted for the Queen of England not to be their head of state in country, but they still chose to remain a part of the Commonwealth. Why? Because, in the case of still remaining a part of the Commonwealth, because they know that they have a lot to gain from that association. All right? Those little countries, that's a tiny little country. That's a little country the size of San Pedro, right? Or San Pedro and Burgess Key. So that's a tiny little country. And you have a lot of tiny little Caribbean countries, right? I'm not saying Belize is big, but compared to a lot of the Caribbean countries, Belize is actually big compared to them. But each one has their own government, all right? Their self-governed own government. And they each have a vote. And they also will be looking at this, those who still have the king as their head of state. So we have to look at this. This is important. This will be coming at us. We already saw the Minister of Education speaking on this, all right, saying we have to cut ties, we have to move away, from, pretty much from having as our head of state now the King of England. So that's something that will be coming at us. We have to, this show won't be enough for me to discuss all that I would want to discuss, but at least I'm giving you a little bit of what I want us to look at. So go ahead and play that video with Queen Elizabeth and her role with the Commonwealth, please.
She served her country. She served the Commonwealth. She served our world, and she changed our world too.
The passing of the Queen, obviously, in the Jamaican context, in the context of the Commonwealth, is the end of an era.
The Commonwealth of Nations evolved out of the British Empire. Now it's one of the world's biggest international organisations, made up of 54 countries, covering some 2.5 billion people. Britain's Queen Elizabeth was instrumental in creating it, and it was one of her proudest achievements. But now that the Queen's reign has come to an end, what does the future of the Commonwealth look like?
The Queen.
Philip Murphy is a professor of British and Commonwealth history at the University of London.
I think perhaps the Commonwealth has historically run its course. And what you're really seeing now is the ghost of an organisation.
Commonwealth members range from wealthy nations such as Britain, Australia, New Zealand and Canada to populous India, as well as tiny Pacific republics such as Nauru. Supporters see it as a network for fostering international cooperation and trade links, while promoting democracy and development. That's why, when Barbados cut its ties with the British monarchy to become a republic in 2021, it was keen to remain part of the Commonwealth. Others say the organisation has become outdated and irrelevant.
The Commonwealth talks about the importance of promoting democracy, tackling climate change, tackling gender inequality, but the Commonwealth isn't necessarily a logical framework internationally in which to deal with any of those problems. They don't stop at the borders of a Commonwealth state.
Another question the organisation will have to address is who will lead it. In 2018, Commonwealth leaders agreed that Elizabeth's son and heir Prince Charles, now King Charles III, should be her successor, although the role is not hereditary.
And will decide that one day the Prince of Wales should carry on the important work started by my father in 1949.
Barbados-based David Denny is the General Secretary for the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration.
We have removed the Queen of Head of State. So I don't think the Queen should continue, or her family should continue to be the head of the Commonwealth. Yes, I believe that there could be some form of linkages, but to remain as head of the Commonwealth, I think is a contradiction. I think the time has come for the Commonwealth nations to meet every year or every 2 years or every 3 years and elect who must be the head of the Commonwealth. That would be the Caribbean Movement Peace and Integration's recommendation.
All right, so you just saw that. So we have to now look at this, because we're seeing now, her role, and it's now moved to King. It's King now. So I used to say Prince Charles, but King Charles III. And I know that it will go either way, depending on how it's sold to the people. Now, we heard and we're already seeing some, agitation by certain groups. And we saw that recently when it was, Prince William and Catherine, who is now Prince of Wales and Princess of Wales, no? We know that we saw a few people who did not support their visit, and we saw, I would say, definitely was the masses, the majority, who supported their visit. We saw that also in the Caribbean, especially in a country like the Bahamas. Clearly, the masses supported it. There were a few persons who did not support it. And we've seen in other countries like Jamaica as well, you do see people in there, some people who don't support, but you also see some who support. But in the case of, for example, Belize and Bahamas, you saw more people supporting. So that's a backdrop that I wanted you guys to look at. And one of the things moving forward, because there will be a discussion, but there'll need to be an education as to what would be the repercussions. Because we already see, for example, people are asking about who will put on our money, right? Right now, for those who are watching from abroad, may not know how our money look and our coin. So can you put the picture with the money? Belize money. It has the Queen on it. And of course, our coins have the Queen on it. All right? And who would go on it? Now, as we very well, people have been stating, a lot of monies, or most monies, they normally have somebody who's dead on their money. It just so happened that Queen Elizabeth has been on Canada money and different monies, and she was alive, where she was, so that's our dollar currency, $2, $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100 currency. And then, so she's there, a younger photo. And we also on our coins, okay? So on our coins as well. Our neighbor, so there you have it, see, she's on all our dollar coin, or 50 cents, or 25 cents, 5 cents, you know, our 10 cents, and of course our 1 cent, so your pence, your penny, your dime, your nickel, your quarter. And so you have that now. The thing is that, and I did hear the governor of the central bank, our governor of the central bank, speaking on it. If we were to, one, we don't have to take her off of it. Two, it would cost. It would cost a lot. People are looking at whether or not our money would be devalued, whether or not people would see value in it, and so forth, the pegging of it, all of those things. Now, those are things that would have to be discussed with the people, and for them to look at and, you know, decide. Right now, to rush to change anything, this is me. I don't really see a need that you have to rush to change anything. We just came out of lockdowns. When it comes to, you know, people don't have money to even be able to live well, much more than you'll have to spend. I don't know if it will, how much money it would be, I don't know. Hundreds of thousands, millions, I don't know, to change and go through the process of deciding who would go on it. Definitely be millions deciding who would go on it if we were to change, and the process of you know, of course, you'd have to print, design new currency notes, and of course, you know, there'd be education, there'd be an assimilation of those dollar coins or those monies. But the point is, it would cost. How much it would cost, it depends on how structured that would be. At this point in time, I don't see a need to quickly move towards it. That's my point of view, and I think a lot of people share that same sentiment. Whether or not to rush and put King Charles, I think we don't have to rush, and I don't think he would be upset if we kept his late mother on it. Again, that's my view. So that's one of the things. You know, we'll be looking at these things. We'll be looking at whether or not we're to come out of and remove him now as head of state. And I think that's something that some people are looking at. And I say this because when the Minister of Education said that out loud, although he did not say, I didn't hear him say it was a sentiment of the cabinet. Because if he had said that was a sentiment of the cabinet, then that would have been different. It could just be his point of view, and he has a right to his opinion. Whether or not it's shared by the cabinet, and it's not just the cabinet, it would have to be Parliament, and Parliament has to listen to us, the people, right? They are representing us, so they would have to hear the sentiments of the people. So we need to now start to educate ourselves. We're going to have to start to educate ourselves and see which is right for us. Monday, we're going to be celebrating, and they're going to have what is it? What do they say? They're going to have that as a public and bank holiday. And yeah, the press release, I know, the press release stated that the cabinet advises the general public that on Monday, September 19th, the state funeral for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth will be held in the United Kingdom. In Belize, that same 19th, which is this Monday, will be observed as a one-time public and bank holiday. The public is further advised that this public and bank holiday coincides with National Service Day, which will stand to be observed as a day of service, all right? And of course, you know, that is from the government. They did state that. We'll need to really reflect. I have, just for you to understand, this Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, how important it is when you're a part of something. It's only when you're a part of something you have a say a lot of times. Unless you're a huge country, then you probably can get away with it. The way how right now Russia, they're strong, so they can stand up on their own 2 feet, but they still align themselves with certain countries, all right? But we're not Russia. We're not Russia, all right? We're not the US. We're not the superpower. We're not a superpower, okay? So aligning ourselves with an entity definitely has, you know, wisdom in it, as long as it's a good entity. It has wisdom in it, all right? Aligning ourselves. We will have to look at the Commonwealth Heads of Government. In 2011, when I was in Perth, Australia, I told you I was listening to it. I saw firsthand there were different things that they were looking at, right? But one of the things I told you was the same-sex marriage, and certain countries were pushing it. The leader, the head of that Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting at that time was Australia. And their Prime Minister was what? Her name is Julia Gillard. I had met her. You know, I took pictures with her and everything, and some of the other heads, but she was one of them that I had met. She, as much, you know, you have to understand that I really, you know, when it's a female head of state, of course, you know, I'm going to make sure that, I mean, you know, I'll support. Just like when when you had the Trinidad and Tobago, what do I say, a prime minister president, because I know they're a republic, but when she came, of course, she was a female, and so, you know, I got the opportunity to sit next to both, right? And speak with both. And so but it was her government who was hosting that meeting, and they can bring certain things to the agenda for that meeting. And I recall when this particular issue came up, you had certain countries that were pushing it. Australia was one of them. Canada was one of them. You understand? And of course, I'm trying to remember if England was one of them supported, but who were outspoken on it, of course, were those countries. But some of the other Commonwealth countries, I told you, stood up, all right? And a small country, you know, a country like the Maldives, they're not small like our, you know, Caribbean nation, but, you know, I mean, compared to some of these larger countries, you had South Africa. South Africa stood up. South Africa was one of them who stood up and spoke against it, all right? And they, let me just tell you, all right. So what I want to tell you is that the difference of a country like South Africa, who has millions of people, and a country like the Maldives, who had right now they have 561,397 people. So the difference of that country compared to South Africa is stark. However, they both got their say, and it was on account of countries like those who stood up. There were other countries who stood up, including mostly from Africa, who stood against it. All right? And it's on account of them why there was not an adoption of this move to having they had called it a human rights commissioner, because that would have set a precedent. You see, because if a country like Belize, for example, did not go along with what was set out there, right? We could have been, there would have been pressure on us to adhere to, same-sex marriage. There would have been a pressure. But at that time, it was because these countries stood up, okay, against those countries that had more population. And of course, the US, you have certain persons pushing for these rights that a lot of us don't support, right? And I'm not talking about equal rights for women. That's different. They try to lump in same-sex marriage with our women's rights, and that's different. That's different, and that's why their gender policy, their bill, didn't go through, because they were trying to trick us. That's how I saw it. They were trying to trick us by pushing same-sex marriage as a right alongside our right as women to equal pay and equal whatever. Of course, you fully well understand I'm a woman, and I'll say you can get equal pay if you do equal job. Because you can't expect somebody who's not qualified, let's say somebody, and I have to do this. Let's say somebody who does not have a high school diploma, and you say, okay, because as a woman, that person should make as much as, let's say, a man who may have furthered his education and gotten, I'm just saying, let's say, an associate's degree, okay, or a bachelor's degree. No, man, that would be ridiculous, right? We all know that would be ridiculous. That's not meritocracy, and meritocracy is what should prevail, all right, for there to be true equality. Based on what you put out, or the work that you do, that's how it should come back to you. If you did not finish certain things, then you can't expect to get certain things. Otherwise, we won't have true equality. No, I do understand some people, they will make sure that if they didn't get at one point, they see that, okay, well, I want that amount of money. Well, you go and you get those additional skills, and you can get that money or more. And that is how it should be. And I keep on saying it because that's how the government and that's how work should be across the board. That's the only way we will have a productive people. That's the only way we will have equity in this world. All right? Things shouldn't just be handed to you, because you're a woman. Things shouldn't just be handed to you, because you're a man. You see? If I do the same work like you and I'm a woman, then I should get paid the same like you. However, if you're doing more work than me, then no, I don't expect to get the same pay like you. Or if you're in a field that the work is way more complicated than what I'm doing, then yeah, you should be paid more. There's no question about it. All right? That's just how it should be. So we will have to zero in on these things. Not let anything divert us, because we wouldn't want them to lump in anything. I gave that as an excuse because I don't want, if we move towards this direction, and next week we'll be celebrating our independence, all right? What is it, our 41st independence? 1981, yeah. I wouldn't want anybody to bamboozle us. So we have to be very awake people. All right, and that's why I had this show, because I want to open up your eyes. I'm not saying either way to go. I'm just putting things out there at this point in time. What we're up against, how it affects us, and what we can do to open and to educate ourselves moving on. You don't want anybody to just tell you what to do. You have to do your research. You have to decide what will be right for you, your family, and your country. All right? Ultimately, that's what will happen. With that said, I want to say have a wonderful and pleasant good night. We have been, we have been having a very lively show. I know that, we're this weekend we'll be having certain activities. I want you guys to enjoy yourself. Let's try to ensure that let me just read some of these comments. I know I missed some of them. Sorry, I didn't. For some reason, I had that, but I wasn't looking at some of these comments. Sorry about it. Chrissy Moore said, either way, King Charles will soon die. Oh my gosh. Gonzalo Ishmael Heredia says, we will never be our own sovereign country completely until we throw off the shackles of the colonialists. We don't need the British colonials or the American imperialists or anyone else to be a prosperous nation with our own identity. Some people think we still need them because that is a slave mentality that they ingrained in their colonies for centuries, that you will never be able to survive without us guiding you. So you need to stay with us. Okay, let me just say something though. What people need to understand though, and that's why I had mentioned about imperialism, different from colonialism. American imperialism, to a great extent, definitely is different from the colonialism. Now, what are we getting from the UK versus what the UK is getting from us? You need to look at that. We do get monies. It's called DFID. All right, DFID. Well, that's the acronym. And so we do get money, and it's spent. We have different projects throughout the country. I think the British High Commissioner and our government would have to educate people and say what all is gotten from the British government. And I'm saying British now, I'm not saying the Commonwealth, I'm saying the British government. Whatever other trainings, whatever we send our military there, we send our military to the, for example, to England, Royal, when it comes to, they study different stuff. So we have some of our Air Force people on the ground, commanders, things. They do go to the Royal College. So we get that from them. We get British Chevening scholarships. We get whatever else we get, different assistance we get. But these are things you would have to make sure the government would have to say and to do a consensus, because it might sound bad that you are like as though we're just looking at it for what we can gain, but hell, we have to look at it like that, So let me see. So we do have, let me see, what is it? The Department for International Development. Let me see. The Department for International Development. It's been replaced now. It got closed. Been replaced by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. So that was just done. So that's one of the things, and those DFID is who used to give us money. All right, I know because I had to follow it up. I worked in the Ministry of Economic Development, right? So I had to know about what were given to us by the UK government and so forth, no? We also have, so that would have to be looked at. What is it and what are we giving, if anything, to the UK? Okay? Whether or not they have a queen or not, their country will decide also, because the Queen, the Buckingham Palace, let me tell you how it helps them. It helps them in their tourism. A lot of people will visit the UK, or UK even people want to go there because they want to go visit Buckingham Palace. You know, that's one of course, we go to Trafalgar Square. There's different entities in in Britain, in the UK that we visit, but Buckingham Palace is definitely one of them. I've been there a few times, and I'll tell you, it's always packed with people. So I'm just letting you know that. People still go there, whether or not people want to admit it, they go there, all right? And for example, when one of the children or the princess would use any clothes, and they know where they bought those clothes from, immediately that designer, the place where they bought the clothes from, it's sold out. That's sold out immediately. So let's say the child, let's say one of the children wear a suit of clothes, immediately they will say it, and it's sold out. So that's how they help. They deal with branding, just like certain movie stars and players, sports figures, entertainers, and I can go on. But so let me just state, we will have to look at what we're giving compared to what we could gain. Of course, remember, understanding that being a part of the Commonwealth, we do know that Guatemala is not a part of the Commonwealth. They're not a part of the Commonwealth, but we are a part of the Commonwealth, okay? So that's something that you have to look at. Gonzalo also says, Belizeans should look at the history of Singapore for an example of what can be achieved when you when you form your own identity and drop the colonials. Let me read this. Colonials. Belize and Singapore has very similar circumstances, but very different results from Belize since their independence 40 years ago. And Singapore is a country I've looked at. As a matter of fact, when I was getting a scholarship to do my doctorate, a Commonwealth scholarship. It's a long story. It was taken from me when I went against the government. I was registrar of cooperatives and credit unions at the time. So anyway, that's what I was going to. That's what I was going to do my doctorate on, and it had to do. Singapore was one of the countries I was going to be looking at. And I was going to look at how technology would have impacted, our economic growth and development, and just do everything on that. But the point is, Gonzalo, yes, we have to look at the history of Singapore, and definitely that's something that people have to look at certain countries that they're familiar with as well, and look at what has happened in those countries compared to ours, okay? It has to do with, our vision, our leaders. If we have leaders who are knowledgeable and who really love the country, and leaders who's wise, all right, it could propel us very far. Because leaders who are wise will want our people to be the best that they can be. But leaders who are selfish, that's why you see some of our area representatives, they don't care, a lot of them, not all, they don't really care for people to get education or to get good education. They will give you a little $20 a week or $25 a week, and that's it. They won't push for you to get your education so you can rise out of poverty and be on your own. But anyway, that's another story. But just to let you know that that's something, you need wise leaders for us to propel forward. Nancy DePal said we don't have those leaders. And that's the unfortunate truth. But we need more to step forward. They still have a chance. We have a government who has been in office, 2 years, I believe, 2020. Some of them have been trying to do okay. Some, need to step up to the plate, Rachel Ann Balderrama says, money will change. King Charles, the head of state, solved this problem with Guatemala. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely something that we'll have to look at. It's important. I would want to speak a lot more, but I did promise that this would be a 1-hour show. So let me stick to my promise. And maybe next time I'll speak on it, because it's something that I feel that I can discuss, and I'm interested in. You see, I'm interested in because I've been a part of leadership in the Commonwealth for a while. If you guys don't know, all right. So I was elected for 2 terms, two-year terms, as the head of the Commonwealth Local Government Forum. I was also, before that, a member, and then after that, the vice chairperson of the Commonwealth. So I was there for some years, in that leadership position. So I'm not saying, that is why. So like for 6 years, definitely, and I would have continued on, but I didn't run again. So that's why I have been there looking at it, and I continued. I attended meeting after that, even while I was not mayor. So that is why I feel that whatever insight I can bring, just to start to, just to open up some of your minds so that you can start to do your own research and look into things, I will do so. With that said, this show is brought to you again through the courtesy of Sea Belize Vacation Rentals. We are located at 5 miles Philip Wilson Highway. So again, for this holiday and for this weekend, make sure you visit us. We're open every day, and we have this 40-foot by 16-foot pool, 6 feet deep, 3 feet 8 inches on the other side, and of course we have different vacation rentals at different levels. So visit us. You could go to our website, www.seabelizevacation.com, SEE, belizevacation.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube as well. The Max TV, all right, and Maximum Radio. I want to thank you guys, Michael Salazar, and of course, Ben Ruiz. I want to thank you guys for the broadcast and for bringing us live on TV and radio. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, the viewers, you who are watching on the different mediums. I want to thank you for ensuring that every time, we have a show, you're tuned in. So I want to thank you. Again, I'm going to be asking the question as to whether or not I should move the show, because I've also had persons asking me to have 2 times a week, but that's definitely something it would be too much for me, to handle, because, I do have other stuff, to deal with, but at least I don't mind doing it once a week. I enjoy it. However, whether or not I should have the show at 6 p.m. to, let's say, 7:30 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or continue it at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Whichever, I'm going to want your feedback. You can let me know. I'm going to try and post something tomorrow, probably on the Facebook page, just to get a gauge. Of course, you can tell me otherwise. So with that said, I want to thank those in studio as well. Kelvin LeBron Moya Flowers, my son Kelvin, he celebrated his 13th birthday on September the 11th. That was the day before yesterday, September the 11th. Yeah, no, that was Sunday. Yeah, day before yesterday. And he is now a teenager. So I want to say thank you, Kelvin, for all you have done for the show, and of course to being that wonderful right hand in my life. All right. I want to big up Mr. Andrew Sutherland. All right. He's also with Kelvin at the master controls and at the cameras. So I want to thank you as well, Andrew. And I want to just say, enjoy your holiday on Monday as well. If I don't see you before then, have a wonderful and blessed day and night, and make sure you keep safe. Don't get into any problems if you don't have to. Please, for goodness sake, all kinds of foolishness have been happening, but I really don't think it is necessary. You just try to do well. We're going to speak on that another time. All right? Go ahead and take it away. Have a good night. 615-4465, 615-4467, and 615-4485. Those are our numbers that you can reach us on to book at Sea Belize Vacation Rentals. All right? Take it away. Looking for the ultimate sea view getaway? Then Sea Belize Vacation Rentals and Tours, located at 5 Miles Philip Golson Highway near the Halover Bridge, is your perfect sea view getaway. Come relax in one of our beautiful air-conditioned sea view apartment, studios, sea view rooms, or suites, all with flat screen television, hot and cold bath, and unlimited access to a spacious and refreshing 40 by 16 foot pool with 6 to 4 feet depth. So you can enjoy that fun and refreshing dive or dip in the pool. We sell ice cold drinks, so you can relax and unwind on our overwater or poolside decks. Contact us at 501-615-4485, 65 or 67.